most of our conditions, our nexus is kind of weak. I mean, because you don't have any hard, I got diagnosed for migraines in service, right? You just don't have it. So our nexus is usually the weakest part of our claims on even a fully developed claim. So when the VA has us going to these CMP exams, just like Clay said, they are relying on the opinion of this medical examiner. They're going to either say that it's at least as likely as not, or that it's not as likely, right? And when and you put it good, Clay, look, they're putting their hands out for you. And the way you need to view that is, look, this is not the VA, right? I've already heard all the horror stories about the VA. The VA this, the VA that. Well, guess what? This is not the VA. They're going, let me help you with the VA because the VA is this and that and this and that. So look at it more as though they could be actually kind of on your side if you supply them with the information that they need. Now, again, back when I was saying that you need to review your schedule of ratings for your conditions, you need to go to your physical doctor, right? Get that implemented. Now, guess what? You have that evidence that you could then upload into your CMP exam portal, right? The big key here is not only doing it there, you also have to do it on the VA side, because there's no guarantee that that's going to go back to the VA. In fact, I read something somewhere on VA CMP exams. I think it was a video that I did that was like 18 questions, Q&As on CMP exam stuff. Can you provide additional evidence? Sure, you can to the CMP exam people, but you also need to submit it to the VA, because there's no guarantee that they're going to get it. So make sure that you do that. One is sign up, if you haven't, on va.gov so you could track and follow the progress of your claim. Now, is it a perfect science? No, but at least it gives you something, because for everybody that's already filed a claim, you get this. For the brand new people who've never filed a claim and are getting ready to file a claim, this is going to be the longest 6 months of your life, or however long it takes to decide your claim, because you have talked to enough people, you've listened to enough YouTube videos or whatever to understand that there's a payout at the end and there's going to be back pay. And so you're constantly wondering, did I get approved, and what's my percentage, and oh my gosh, what's going to happen? I'm getting an Escalade, whatever it is, right? So here you are. Now, doing that will help kind of give you something to at least look at instead of wonder. So you're not calling your VSO 1,000 times a day, right? So now you can kind of track it a little bit. You can see some progress, whatever. So that's one thing I tell people to do. The other thing I tell people to do is I actually tell them this way up front, but if I caught somebody after they've already filed their claim, right? So in this moment, oh, no, I'm good with the VA. I just filed my claim 2 months ago. I'm good. Okay. I wish we would have talked 3 months ago, but that's okay. What I want you to do is make sure that you review the schedule of ratings for every condition that you filed for. Read through each line of criteria for each rating that is possible until you figure out which one is you, right? Now, if you've already filed your claim and it's in process and you didn't do this up front, well, that kind of sucks, but it's not the end of the world. You might get rated lower than what you think, right? Which that part sucks. But what I tell people to do is plan for the worst case. Now, why it's still going in process? Why not? Right? Mm-hmm. Look through the schedule of ratings, read the things, find out which rating you would qualify for. You're the patient. You know what signs and symptoms you have. Now, look, there's medical jargon in there. Google search it, get the translation so you know what the hell they're talking about. Then go to your doctor and make sure that you are sharing this information with your doctor and having them put that into your medical record so you can start building that evidence in the event that you need to file a supplemental after the fact. Now, I know I've jumped way ahead, but this needs to happen now, right? Ideally. So I tell people to do that. And also, this also preps you for the CMP exam, right? Because now you know exactly the criteria required for each one of your conditions to get the specific rating that you deserve, whatever the rating that is. It could be a 10%, could be a 60%. Just depends on you and your symptoms, right? It's not a closed book test. C&P exams are stressful just because you're going to the unknown, meeting a person that you don't know who's going to decide your life, right? And it's like, oh, wow, what if they don't like me? What if I come off like an asshole? Whatever, right? So these are important things to understand, is that, look, for them, you're pretty much just another number coming through the door. They're not really paying that much attention to you. But you better be prepared, because what they're doing oftentimes, and I'm sure you would agree, Clay, probably more times than not in today's world, it's going to be a contracted company that you're going to go to the C&P exam with, more times than not. So all that's happening here is the C&P examiner gets the request, they get paperwork, your paperwork, to go through and look at, but they also get a form in which they need to fill out, asking you questions. So the questions that they ask you for your condition is the same questions they're going to ask Clay for the same condition. They're going to just go through that. Those questions are designed to figure out where you fall on the rating schedule. Okay? Because they need to formalize it some way so they can be fair and equitable for all of us, right? So if I ask everybody the same 10 questions and 6 of those questions answered this way equals this percentage, then everybody's fair, right? So knowing that is important. You can't just go in there and think. People don't prepare. That's the problem, right? They don't prepare for the C&P exam. They just wait for it. They get there and they go, it really affects my life. My life is really in shambles because of this. My life is not the same. Well, it doesn't really say that in the schedule of ratings for GERD or for migraines, right? Now it says bed rest, and maybe if you have a good C&P examiner who might ask you 15 questions to get you to say, well, yeah, I got to lay in bed and just kind of like wait it out for 7 hours, right? So I know I'm rambling, but there's a lot in that. And the biggest piece is not preparing for the C&P exam with the appropriate information, which you can get from the C&P, from the schedule of ratings. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, Clay, because I know that you do. I've pretty much eaten up a lot of that.
I have an original thought, but I do want to add on to what you had said, because what you described is what's called a disability benefit questionnaire, or DBQ. And guess what? They're not secret. In fact, they're called public DBQs. So you can go on Google right now and type in VA public DBQ. It'll be the va.gov link. You can open that up and you'll see musculoskeletal, you'll see back, you'll see neck, you'll see mental health. I mean, whatever it is you're claiming, that's what's going to be completed. Now, I'm on board with the schedule ratings. You definitely want to understand that, because the DBQ has more potatoes, if you will, where the schedule ratings is the meat. But the schedule ratings you'll find kind of entwined within that DBQ. But it's the playbook, you know? If I were to schedule a meeting with you and I said, hey, here's what we're going to discuss, that's basically what the DBQ is. But what I would add on to that is, when it comes to C&P examiners, specifically the contractor ones out, and I do agree with you that especially today, those are going to be contracted out more so than with the VA, especially with the March 5th push for VA healthcare. VA healthcare was already tied up as is. Now we have millions of veterans eligible, assuming half of them register, okay, if not more, it's going to be contracted out probably. But with that, believe it or not, these companies, I mean, they are a company. They contract for the VA. They don't work for the VA, if that makes sense. And so through that company, I'll take VES as an example. One, VES has sort of like a doctrine, if you will. They have a code of ethics that you can Google and look up. And whenever they schedule you an appointment, you'll get an email, you'll get a little whole packet from USPS or FedEx in the mail about your C&P exam. And on that is a website from that company. And I think the number one mistake is, when it comes to C&P exams, I said all that to drive to this one comment, is
welcome to my world.
Veterans do not upload evidence to the C&P examiner, and they give us that option. No one talks about it, which I think is very weird. But if you look at the OIG report from 22, the OIG absolutely slammed the VA when it comes to proper procedures on CMP exams. And over their test bed, which was like 100 and something thousand disability claims, 68, I want to say 62 or 68, the majority of those claims, the VA failed to upload relevant evidence to that examiner. Now, how crazy is that? We are expecting an examiner to give this nexus, which is a medical opinion, and their career is tied to that, but yet they don't have the evidence. So you could see how the ORG would slam the VA for that. So just knowing that fact, and that's objective, the CMP exam companies give us the opportunity to upload evidence. And something I'll see, I'm not sure if you're on Facebook at all, Jason, but if you browse the Facebook disability groups, which is like worse than a spouse group on base, like
Ah,
Fort Belvoir spouses, all the drama in there. VA disability groups is 10 times worse, right? But I can't tell you how many times I've seen veterans complain saying, hey, I already uploaded my evidence. The VA has everything. Why is this CMP exam company asking me to upload forms? And I'm just like, dude, their hands are out saying, hey, let me help you. And
right.
that instant gratification or that dissent or that hate and
Hmm.
discontent. And I get it. It's annoying. But it's the exam company saying, hey, we know the OIG slammed the VA. Let me help you. And in the same breath, we're like, no, get away. And so I think the number one mistake is not taking advantage that the CMP companies are contracted out. Okay, you can upload evidence. Now, I would caution against bringing evidence to your exam. Right, that would be my last resort. I'm not saying don't do that, but if it's already too late, wing it, okay? But the examiner is not obligated to look at that legally. Keep that in mind. But if you upload that evidence prior to, okay, it gives the examiner and the company a chance to look at your evidence. And that part is absolutely crucial. And guess what? It really goes back to haste because the CMP companies work like that. Once you are contacted by that exam, I'm telling you, in about 3 or 4 days, you'll have your exam. So you got to move. Okay. So the only way to actually upload your evidence, you have to have it. And it goes back to preparing that claim. You need to know your evidence and understand your evidence. So when you're uploading it with your claim, when you're uploading it to your CMP examiner, and more importantly, when you're speaking to your examiner, all you're basically doing is regurgitating your evidence. And that right there makes the process a lot easier.